What's up, everyone? It is Dominic here for Obligatory, bringing you an overview of the new releases for the week ending in Friday, August 18th. We're going to do things a little bit differently this week, starting things off with our three most notable releases, regardless of if they are singles or albums. First off, we have the Ghanaian-Australian artist Genesis Owusu, who is following up one of the most impressive debut records in recent years, 2021's Smiling with No Teeth, with his second album, Struggler. The singles for this one were fantastic, and much like his debut, it finds Owusu weaving in and out of a vibrant combo of funk, soul, and synth-punk. But do not let these similarities in sound trick you, as Owusu told DIY Magazine in an interview that, quote, "I think it's a clean slate. I've always had this affinity with world building, characters, concepts, that kind of thing. The characters within Struggler are very different to the ones in Smiling with No Teeth." Genesis Owusu's sophomore album Struggler is out now via Ourness and AWOL. Moving on to the next one, we have what is easily the biggest single and some of the biggest news of this week, with that news being that after a string of collaborations and a 5-part series of ambient albums, we are finally gearing up for a proper Sufjan Stevens release. His name has been attached to 11 releases since 2015's Beloved, Carrie, and Lowell, but only one of those, 2020's The Ascension, didn't fall under one of the two aforementioned categories. But alongside the release of his new single, an atmospheric piano ballad titled So You Are Tired, the singer-songwriter has announced his new album, Javelin. Javelin by Sufjan Stevens is set to release October 6th through his own Asthmatic Kitty Records. And last but not least, in highlighting our three featured cover artists, we have John Dwyer and the prolific psych punk / garage punk outfit Osees, who've just released their 27th studio album with Intercepted Message. It still comes with the bite and sense of urgency that their sound usually carries, but this one is probably the most synth-heavy and almost new wave-esque work that they've done yet. Intercepted Message is out now via In the Red Recordings. We've covered the big three of this week in new music, but there are still so many other projects that are worth checking out, so here are 8 more albums and EPs from this week worth adding to your radar. Gene Dawson has 3 new songs out now with the EP Destruction for Dummies. This drop is the second part of a trilogy that sees Dawson operating under alter egos of sorts. It follows up a similar 3-track release where we heard Dawson as Phoenix, but this time around he's going by the name Nightmare. These songs are within the realm of a usual Gene Dawson cut, fusing together a combination of indie rock, alternative R&B, and alt pop. Irish singer-songwriter Hozier shared his third album with Unreal Unearth. Inspired by Dante's Inferno and jumping between sounds of folk pop, indie rock, and piano ballads, it is his most ambitious record yet. Unreal Unearth is out via Rubyworks Records and Columbia Records. Mick Jenkins has a new album out now titled The Patience. It's the Chicago rapper's 4th album, and it pulls features from Freddie Gibbs, Benny the Butcher, Jid, and Vic Mensa. The Patience is out now by way of RBC Records. Philly-based Drag Me, the project of Spirit of the Beehive members Zach Schwartz and Corey Witchlin, share their second album, Lord of the Shithouse. It is a super dense project mostly rooted in glitch pop, but it is far from limited to any real constraints. Psychedelic pop, industrial music, R&B, hip-hop, and all kinds of different electronic music genres are fair game on Lord of the Shithouse. Boston-based post-hardcore / emo-core band Fiddlehead just put out their 3rd record today titled Death Is Nothing to Us. That one is out now via Run for Cover Records. New York's Come Girl 8 have released their new EP, Fantasy Farm, the first project that the band has released since joining the 4AD family. Their name might be a little shocking at first, but don't let it dissuade you from giving them a chance, as they have got a ton of talent and create some really fiery, unique, and immersive post-punk. Moving on from some of the albums that dropped this week, we've already covered one single with the Sufjan Stevens track we talked about earlier, but here are 9 more singles from this week that we recommend. Cherry Glazer have an album coming out next month, and we just got the second single from it this week with a new track, Ready For You. Similarly to lead single Soft Like a Flower, the new one, titled Ready For You, feels plucked out of the 90s in the best way possible. It's a little bit grunge influenced and driven by fuzzy guitars, but it's really bolstered by some impassioned vocals from Clementine Creevy. In a statement regarding the song, Creevy said that Ready For You is about, quote, being so ashamed of yourself that you can't look people in the eye, and it's also about pushing people away because of being scared of hurting them with your own bullshit. Sometimes I feel scared about infecting people with my own troubles, and I just want to hide because I can save them from myself. The song helps me move through it and confront those feelings of inadequacy. I hope it does that for other people too. Ready For You by Cherry Glazerr is out now via Secretly Canadian, and the full album of I Don't Want You Anymore comes out September 29th. Wild Nothing, the project of Jack Tatum, has a new single out now titled Headlights On, which accompanied an announcement for his new album, Hold. The lead single features Australian singer-songwriter Hatchie, who provides background vocals, and the track sports a dreamy, danceable sound that feels reminiscent of the baggy sound that peaked in the early 90s. Wild Nothing's Hold comes out October 27th via Captured Tracks. Jasper Marsalis, better known as Slauson Malone and a former member of the Standing on the Corner collective, has shared his first release since signing to Warp Records with the track Voyager. He has also adopted a new moniker, now going by Slauson Malone 1. Per his artist bio, the goal of his work is to explore the possible intersections of popular music and performance art. It's hard to argue that he hasn't already excelled at that with his previous work, and with Voyager that looks like it'll continue, as his Warp Records debut is an avant-garde and contemplative piece that feels incredibly hard to box in as merely abstract hip-hop. Show Me the Body have shared some details of an upcoming EP of remixes for a select few tracks from their most recent album, Trouble the Water. For the first single, which is out now, they've tapped the Detroit ghetto tech trio High Tech for a remix of their song Food from Plate, and they've transformed the originally noisy and super aggressive track into an atmospheric electronic one. Show Me the Body have described the 5-track EP as an amalgamation of friends and idols, with select remixes by Simon, Pink Sifu, Slauson Malone 1, and Michael Watts of Swishahouse, plus this thing has an RXK Nephew feature on it. Trouble the Water, the remixes, comes out in 2 weeks on August 31st via Loma Vista Recordings. LA band Sextile have shared a new single titled Crash that is almost the polar opposite of their last single, the high-tempo, off-the-walls track New York. Crash is still synth-heavy, but makes use of them in a much more subdued way in this hazy single that features Izzy Glaudini of the band Automatic. To draw some comparisons, Crash gives off similar vibes to something like George Clanton, whereas New York kind of reminded me of some of Machine Girl's more electronic-focused stuff. Both songs are from the group's upcoming album Push, which will be out September 15th via Sacred Bones Records. Electropop artist and member of PC Music, Hannah Diamond, just announced her second album, Perfect Picture, with the release of the album's title track. It is the follow-up to her 2019 debut album Reflections, and it'll be out October 6th. Last week, Indiana band The Cowboys announced their new album Sultan of Squat with lead single The Sultan of Squat, and this week they're back with another track in She's Not Your Baby Anymore. It's another super fun track with a sort of retro pop rock feel to it, and I will hold off on calling it alt country, but there is a bit of twang to this one with the inclusion of some fantastic slide guitar. Their new album Sultan of Squat comes out next week, August 25th via Feel It Records. Following up their debut album, Sense Yourself, from last year, the Atlanta punks Upchuck are back with news that their second album is due out in October. They've shared the lead single Freaky, the first track off of Bite the Hand That Feeds, and it is a rousy, high-energy one with these real chunky riffs that just sound so good. Bite the Hand That Feeds, the new album from Upchuck, was recorded and produced by Ty Segall at his Topanga Canyon home studio, and it'll be out October 13th through Famous Class. Optic Sink, the minimal post-punk / synth-punk trio composed of Natalie Hoffman of the band Knots, Ben Bauermeister, and Keith Cooper have just announced their second album, Glass Blocks, with the release of lead single Model S. The track is super dancey and reminiscent of early synth-punk, while the vocals sit in that sweet spot of being just a tad distant but also feeling effortlessly cool and captivating. This one is out now via Feel It Records, and you can be on the lookout for the full album on September 8th. There were a ton of singles that released this week, so before we wrap things up, I want to highlight a few more artists that dropped some new singles and announced upcoming projects as well, those being DJ Shadow, Mintfield, Proper, and the Menzingers. Again, so much new music dropped this week, so we obviously weren't able to cover everything in this video, but if you want to see the full list that we put together, you can check that out on your screen or head over to our socials. Otherwise, we are still polling for albums by SOPHIE, Westside, Gunn, Lil Uzi Vert, Mac Miller, Denzel Curry, Travis Scott, and more. Make sure you check out our voting form where you can submit a score, select top tracks, and submit a review for a chance to be featured. And lastly, check out our previous video where Dev covered some news stories and music that happened over the past week or so, including some more details about the upcoming Sufjan Stevens album. And of course, thank you so much for watching.